Hello friends, I am Sharad Vaze, practicing chartered accountant for more than 38 years and handling disciplinary cases for the last 17-18 years. Today I will be speaking on next clause, that is clause number 12 from Schedule 1 Part 1. Clause number 11. It says a chartered accountant in practice shall be deemed to be guilty of professional misconduct if he engages in any business or occupation other than the profession of chartered accountant unless permitted by the council so to engage. As discussed or as told every time, this clause number 11 is identical in Schedule 1 Part 1 of the Cost and Works Accountants Act as well as the Company Secretaries Act. So the discussion is applicable to all the three professions. So if he engages in any business or occupation other than the profession of chartered accountant, cost accountant, company secretary, as the case may be, unless permitted by the council so to engage, provided that nothing contained herein shall disentitle a chartered accountant from being a director of a company, not being a managing director or a whole-time director unless he or any of his partners is interested in such company as an auditor. So what clause 11 says, it has got two limbs. The first one is he engages in any business or occupation. A chartered accountant is not allowed to engage in any business or occupation whatsoever. He is required to continue only the profession of accountancy and nothing beyond that. However, exceptions are provided by the council. That means with the permission of the council, a professional is allowed to engage in any other activity other than the profession of chartered accountancy or cost accountancy or company secretaryship, as the case may be. However, the proviso itself provides that no permission is required for a professional to become a director simpliciter. In a sense, if he is a director simply, nothing beyond that, he can be promoted director also. In that case, he is allowed to be a director on any company provided that he himself or any of his partners are not auditor of that company. For example, A is a partner in a partnership firm ABC and firm ABC is auditor of PQR Private Limited. Then A is not allowed to become a director of PQR Private Limited, even a director simpliciter, leave aside anything else. Likewise, a professional is not allowed to be engaged as a managing director or a whole-time director in any company, because in that case it will amount to whole-time employment, and in that case it will not amount to whole-time practice. That's why being a director simply is permissible, but not occupying any position as whole-time director or working director or managing director is prohibited. Now, what has the council has allowed for a member, where there are two types. One is under Rule 190A, a member is allowed to carry on such other activities without the permission of the council of the institute, respective institute. What 190A says provides employment with under a chartered accountant in practice. So a chartered accountant can be employed with another chartered accountant for which no permission, no approval is required. Second is private tutorship. If a member wants to start his own activity as a tutorship, private coaching classes, he is allowed to do that. There is no need to seek the approval or permission from the council. He can write articles, he can write books relating to profession. He is allowed to be an agent of Life Insurance Corporation of India only for the purpose of receiving a renewal commission. Now, what is the case? Suppose A as the father has was an insurance agent, life insurance agent, or a normally life insurance agent, where you go on getting the commission periodically till its maturity. After his death, A has nominated B, his son, as a nominee for getting renewal commission. In the event of death of A, B will go on receiving the commission, and that will be permissible even for a chartered accountant or a cost accountant or a company secretary, because what he is getting as only as a renewal commission, he is not allowed to claim any fresh commission on a fresh business, because he is not allowed to carry on any business or any other activity. He is allowed to attend any classes or appearing for any examination. Attendance for classes need not be related to the profession, or giving examination need not be related to a profession. Just to give an example, one of my friend from Pune, who is also practicing for last 35 years or so, he is a good astrologer. So he has recently joined a postgraduate course with IGNOU, Indira Gandhi National Open University, for MA in Jyotishi, that is MA in astrology. So basically, he is a practicing chartered accountant, but he wants to pursue his hobby. Therefore, he has joined the MA course of IGNOU, which is permissible. He can attend the classes, he can write examination, even though such courses or such examinations are unconnected with the profession which he is doing. A professional is allowed to be an office bearer for a trust, educational institution, or non-commercial organization. A professional can be a trustee of a charitable trust. A professional can be an office bearer in a non-commercial organization like cooperative housing society, or there are many expert directors on urban cooperative banks, or there are expert directors in other or independent directors in listed companies. So such position can be accepted by a professional. The next is he is allowed to occupy elective offices like MPs, MLAs, MLCs, etc. That means a chartered accountant or a cost accountant or a company secretary in practice can stand for elections, can get elected, and can represent the particular locality in the parliament or in the state legislature. There are many such persons, renowned persons, who are professionals in their individual capacity, but they represent the citizens in the parliament. Just to give an example, Suresh Prabhu is a chartered accountant, he is a minister. Similarly, Piyush Goyal is a chartered accountant and he was handling earlier the railway ministry, now he is handling the commerce ministry. That means professionals can occupy the elective positions as a member of parliament or member of legislative assembly. Arun Gujarati was a chartered accountant who was a speaker in Maharashtra government. So likewise, a professional is allowed to be in elective offices like MPs, MLAs, for which no permission from the council is required. It is allowed generally. Then a professional can be a valuation of papers, paper setters, moderators, examiners, so on. That means he can be an examiner or paper setter or a moderator for any other examination conducted by the university or other professional institutes, or even private institutes or deemed universities, and so on and so forth, for which no permission is required. He can be an editor of a professional journal, but if he wants to be an editor of a non-professional journal, please note I am using the word non-professional, not unprofessional. If he wants to become an editor of non-professional journals, then he requires specific prior approval of the council. But if he is a editor of a professional journal like Bombay Chartered Accountant Society, BCA journal, or CTC journal, likewise, in that case, no permission is required. Then he can act as a surveyor or loss assessor under the Insurance Act. He can be a valuer as per the Insolvency and Bankruptcy Code. He can be registered as a registered valuer with IBBI. then he can be a recovery consultant for banking industry. Please note the regulation has used the word bank recovery consultant, not as recovery agent. That means he can advise the bank or any other agency as to the methodology for recovery and which is permissible for generally. And last but most importantly, a professional can be the owner of agricultural land and he can actually cultivate the agricultural land. That means cultivation in agricultural land is not considered as any other business or any other activity which requires approval from the council. If a person is a professional as well as he owns agricultural land, maybe received by way of inheritance, or he has purchased the agricultural land and he wants to cultivate that land, he can cultivate that land without approval of the council because it has been generally allowed. Now, however, there are certain a list of 7 8 items in respect of which permission is required from the council, and the permission is specific permission and the permission is prior permission and not post facto. Now, what are the items that are covered by this? Full time, part time employment in business concerns, provided member or his relative do not hold substantial interest. That means a member, a professional can be employed full time or part time in any business concern for which it requires prior specific approval, and that can be granted if the council feels that a permission is to be granted. A full time or part time employment in non business concerns like trusts or hospitals or cooperative societies, even when he is in full time employment or part time employment, then also you require a prior and specific approval. If it is honorary office bearership in such non commercial organizations, approval is not required. If he is director simpliciter in a company, approval is not required, but for employment, approval is required. Similarly, he is not allowed to be a managing director or whole-time director of any company in which he himself or a member is having more than 20% voting right. That means in that case, he is said to have a substantial interest in such company. He himself as well as his members. The term relative is defined, which includes husband, wife, brother, sister, any lineal ascendant or lineal descendant, relatively a very narrow definition. Then interest in family concern, family business concern. Now, when the situation arises, if a professional, his father was a partner in a business concern, in a partnership firm, after his death, the partnership did provide that the legal heirs of the deceased partner shall be admitted as partner, and accordingly, this Mr. A is admitted as a partner in a partnership firm in which his father was a partner. So he has become partner by virtue of the partnership deed. Now, in that case, by seeking prior approval, the council generally gives the permission with the condition that such entry into the partnership is by way of inheritance, succession, or partition of the family. Number one. And even he is allowed to become a partner in a partnership firm carrying on business. His role will be a sort of a sleeping partner or a dormant partner. He will not be actively engaged in any business done or conducted by the partnership firm whatsoever. So what is required that, number one, he should be receiving the business as succession, inheritance, or partition. And number two, in such entity, he will not be actively engaged. If these two conditions are satisfied, in that case, the council will grant the permission. Then, full-time or part-time lectureship for courses other than relating to ICI examination. If he wants to be employed in any college or university, in that case, the courses conducted by the institute will obviously not taught at such places. Then he will have to get a prior specific approval from the council to be engaged in such activity. I'll narrate my own experience. Right, I passed out in November 82, but before that, from August 82, I was employed as a part-time lecturer in the reputed college from Pune. So immediately after getting the membership, I applied for the institute that this is a part-time employment with a college where I'll be teaching accountancy and costing. And within, I think, about 3 weeks' time, I got the specific approval from the council that I am allowed to continue as a lecturer in a college. And I'm happy to tell you that I retired after 35 years of teaching in a college in Pune. So that is because I sought prior approval and I was given the approval accordingly by the council. However, most important aspect is council may refuse permission in individual cases even though it is covered by above categories. That means it is not a right. A member cannot quote that Mr. A has got the approval from the council to do this particular activity. So in my case, why such approval is not granted? It is not as a matter of right. That is number one. And what happens when the permission is granted? The rules provide that any member in part-time practice, it will be treated as part-time practice, is not entitled to perform attest function. He is also not allowed to train article assistants. So two losses are there if there is no approval or with such employment with a company. Likewise, whatever has been provided, you are not allowed to do attest function. Number two, you are not allowed to engage articles. Now, in all these, one issue was there and which was hotly debated whether a member can trade in stock market shares and thereby earn sizable income. Will it amount to a business? Whether it is permitted? If he engages himself in trading in derivatives, F&O section of stock markets, which is obviously a business because you do not, in F&O there is no question of delivery, or in case of day trading there is no delivery. You buy in the morning, sell in the afternoon, or you sell in the morning, buy in the afternoon. That means in the process you earn income. Now whether it is permissible, strictly speaking, earlier the council has given come to the conclusion that any activity is other than profession of accountancy is not allowed. So likewise, this activity is also not allowed. However, fortunately for most of us, because many chartered accountants I am aware who are actively engaged in stock market, in March 21, the council has taken a decision that a member can do such activities in F&O segment of the stock exchanges, but for himself and not for any other person. That means it should not be considered as a business. If a person is doing on his own, it is permissible, but if he is doing it on behalf of someone else, it is prohibited. Because of this prohibition, what most of the members, which I am aware, were doing such activities in the names of their wife, now you are allowed to do practice, you are allowed to do business on stock market, in F&O section or any other section in your own name, but if you do it in the name for your wife, it is prohibited. So stop doing such activity in the name of your wife. You can do it rightfully, legally in your name. That's all for the day. Thank you very much. In the next lecture, I'll be covering the last item from Schedule 1, Part 1 as applicable to practicing professionals. Thank you very much.